Welcome to English Simple Hub. It is fantastic to have you back with us. Today, we are cracking open something that it looks deceptively simple on the surface, but is actually a minefield for even the best English speakers.
It really is. And it's funny because when people prep for exams like the IELTS, they obsess over the big stuff, nuclear energy, global politics, the environment. But they so often trip over the coffee tables, so to speak.
Right, they trip over the warm-up. We are talking specifically about part 1 of the speaking test.
Exactly, the bit that's supposed to be the easy introduction.
You walk into the room, you sit down, the examiner smiles and asks you something like, do you like art? I feel like most people just, relax. They think, oh, easy. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
They've already lost points, haven't they?
Well, they haven't necessarily lost points, but they have definitely missed a massive opportunity. That's the trap. Part 1 is where you establish your ceiling. If you give a band 6 answer to an easy question, the examiner anchors you there. It's very hard to convince them you're a band 9 later on if you start with basic one-word sentences.
So that is our mission today. We're doing a deep dive into a specific training video on the topic of museums and art galleries. But we aren't just looking for the right answers. We are looking for the strategy, the band 9 DNA hidden inside them.
Right. We're going to look at how to take a simple question and answer it with what our source material calls complex language to mask simple ideas.
I love that phrase, masking simple ideas. It sounds like a magic trick.
It is a bit of a magic trick. It's about performance.
Okay, so let's look at that first hurdle. The examiner asks, do you like art? Now, play devil's advocate here. If I say, yes, I like art, it's beautiful, why isn't that good enough? I mean, it's truthful. It's grammatically correct.
It is truthful, yes, but it's what we call low ceiling language. And beautiful, those are words a 6-year-old knows. A band 9 candidate needs to show they can manipulate the language. The source material suggests a completely different approach. Don't just answer the question, challenge the definition of the question.
Challenge the definition. That sounds a bit, aggressive for a polite exam.
Not aggressive, intellectual. The model answer starts by saying, art is such a broad term.
Broad term.
Yes. Think about what that signals to the examiner. It signals critical thinking. It signals that you aren't just reacting, you're analyzing.
You're saying this question is too big for a simple yes or no.
Precisely. And it sets up the grammar. This is key. By defining it as a broad term, you force yourself into a conditional structure. If you mean X, then yes. If you mean Y, then no.
Right. The source breaks this down. It says, if you're talking about music and performance art,
then I'm a massive fan. Notice that collocation. Massive fan. Not just, I like it a lot. It's natural native level intensity.
But then comes the pivot, the however.
Exactly. However, if you're talking about drawings and paintings,
then I'm not into it.
Stop there. Not into it. This is a fascinating choice by the source.
It sounds super casual. Is it maybe too casual?
For an academic essay? Absolutely. If you wrote, I'm not into macroeconomics in task 2, you'd be in trouble. But this is the speaking test. The examiner wants to hear natural spoken English, I'm not into it, is a phrasal structure that signals you understand register. You know how people actually talk.
That's a really important distinction. I think people try to sound like a walking thesaurus, right? Using words like loathe or detest, and they just end up sounding robotic.
They do.
I'm not into it. Sounds like something I'd actually say.
Exactly. And the source gives us a lifeboat here, too. What if you genuinely don't care about art? You can't just sit there and say no.
The music lover strategy.
The pivot. I'm not into visual art. I'm more of a music lover.
Yeah.
You're redirecting the conversation to ground where you have more vocabulary. You're taking control.
So the takeaway from that first question is, don't just say yes or no. Deconstruct the word art, use broad term to show your thinking, and into it to show natural flow.
Spot on.
Okay, let's go deeper, because the next part of the source material handles something that terrifies me. Memory loss.
Ah, the artwork on walls question.
Right. Do you have any artwork on your walls? Now, usually, if I'm in an exam and I forget a word or a name, I panic. I start saying, the guy.
And that's the death of fluency. Silence or is the enemy.
But the source suggests doing something that feels, honestly, it feels like cheating or acting.
It is acting. The source suggests pretending to forget.
Okay, walk me through this.
So the model answer describes a print on the wall. It's The Scream by Edward Munch. But in the middle of the answer, the speaker goes, I have a print by... Oh, what is his name? Sorry, the name escapes me.
The name escapes me.
It's a brilliant idiom.
But wait, the source admits the speaker actually knows the name, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The source explicitly says, I know his name is Edvard Munch. I'm just doing this to show off the language.
That is wild. You are creating a fake problem just so you can solve it with a Band 9 idiom.
Think about it as a fluency rescue. In a real conversation, we forget names all the time. If you say, I forgot, you stop the flow. If you say, the name escapes me, you are filling that gap with high-level idiomatic vocabulary. You're scoring points while you pretend to think.
It's strategic competence. You are managing a breakdown in communication.
You got it. And then you have to recover. You can't just leave it hanging there.
Right, the word anyway.
Yes. Anyway, it's a painting called The Scream. The transition marker, anyway, is so important. It tells the listener, okay, the detour is over. I'm back on the main road.
There was something else in that section that made me laugh. Did you catch the name of the artist in the source transcript?
I did. The transcript refers to him as Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, I assume they mean Van Gogh, or maybe there's a famous painter of hawks that I'm unaware of.
Or a fusion of Van Gogh and Tony Hawk. Skateboard art, maybe?
Could be. But you know, even that little error is instructive. The source is focusing so hard on the structure. The name escapes me. Anyway, that the factual accuracy of Van Gogh matters less than the delivery.
That's a comfort, actually. You don't need to be an art historian.
No, you just need to sound like one.
Speaking of sounding like one, there was a specific distinction made about what's actually on the wall.
Yes, prints versus originals.
Because most of us don't have a spare Van Gogh original hanging in the living room.
Unless you're hiding some serious wealth, the source notes that originals cost a fortune.
Cost a fortune. Another great idiom for expensive.
Right. So we use the word print or reproduction. Again, it's about precision. If you tell the examiner, I have a Van Gogh on my wall, and you don't qualify it as a print, you sound delusional. Using reproduction shows specific vocabulary.
Okay, moving on. We've defined art. We've pretended to forget a name. Now let's talk about habits. The question is, do you like going to museums?
This is a classic frequency question. How often do you do X?
And again, the trap is to say, sometimes. Or, yes, usually.
Boring.
So what's the fix?
The source gives us a structure that contrasts your daily life with your holiday life. It uses the phrase, as a rule.
It's not something I do as a rule.
Now, does that sound a bit formal to you?
As a rule. A little bit.
Ah.
Sounds like something a judge would say. As a rule, I sentence you to.
It can be, but in British English especially, it's a very common way to say usually, I don't eat sugar as a rule. It implies a personal policy. It sounds much more sophisticated than just, I usually don't.
But then comes the contrast. You don't do it at home, but
When I'm on holiday, I make a point of it.
make a point of it. That feels very deliberate.
It is. To make a point of doing something means you put in extra effort. It's not accidental. You're going out of your way to find the museum.
And the reason given, this is my favorite metaphor in the whole text.
To get a flavor of the place.
To get a flavor, it's so sensory.
It is. It just lifts the answer up. You aren't just walking into a building to look at statues. You are trying to taste the culture. You're trying to understand the atmosphere.
So if I say I go to museums to learn about history, that's maybe a band 6. But if I say I make a point of dropping into museums to get a flavor of the local culture, that's pushing band 9.
Absolutely, because you're combining an idiom of habit, make a point of, with a metaphorical idiom, get a flavor.
Yeah.
You're stacking your skills.
It effectively changes the topic, doesn't it? You aren't really talking about museums anymore. You're talking about your travel philosophy.
Which is always more interesting. Remember, the examiner is a human being. They are bored. They have heard, I like museums because they are interesting 500 times that day. If you start talking about getting a flavor of the place, you wake them up.
Okay, let's slide into the final section. We've done habits. Now for the specific experience. Have you ever been to an art gallery?
This is the narrative part. And the source starts with a disclaimer.
The identity disclaimer.
Right. I wouldn't class myself as an art enthusiast.
Class myself as. That's a nice way of saying I am.
It's about group identity.
Right.
And enthusiast, that's a key word. Instead of saying I'm not an expert, you say I wouldn't class myself as an enthusiast. It sounds humble, but eloquent.
And then, despite not being an enthusiast, the speaker launches into a story about Amsterdam.
This is crucial. The strategy here is tell a story.
Why is storytelling so important for the score?
Grammar. Think about it. If I ask you about museums and you speak generally, you stay in the present simple tense. I go, oh, it is? That really limits your grammar score.
Right, you can't show off any past tenses.
Exactly. But the moment you say, well, I remember when I was visiting Amsterdam, boom. You are forced to use past simple. I visited, maybe past continuous. I was walking. The story unlocks the grammar.
So the content drives the grammar. If you want a high grammar score, tell a story about the past.
100%. And in this story, the speaker goes to the Van Gogh Museum, or the Van Gogh Museum, as our transcript might say, to see masterpieces.
Masterpieces, not just paintings.
No. High-value vocabulary. A masterpiece is a work of outstanding artistry. And the reaction to the masterpiece...
I was blown away.
Blown away, again, informal, but so powerful. It means overwhelmed, impressed, stunned.
It's emotional language.
It is. Compare, I was blown away with, it was very good. Very good. This is dead language. Blown away has energy.
And I noticed the source connects this back to the not an enthusiast part. It's like, even though I'm not an enthusiast, I was still blown away.
It creates a nice little arc. It shows contrast. You are admitting you weren't an expert, but the quality of the art was so high it captured you anyway. It's a coherent, cohesive monologue.
So we've built quite a toolkit here. I want to zoom out for a second.
Yeah.
When we look at all these strategies together, broad term, the name escapes me, make a point of blown away, it feels like we're constructing a character.
We are.
And that character isn't necessarily you.
No, and that is probably the biggest secret of the IELTS. The test isn't a lie detector. It's a language proficiency test.
This goes back to the pretending to forget strategy. It brings up a kind of weird ethical question. Is it better to be honest and boring, or a liar and fascinating?
In the context of the exam, fascinating wins every time. If you have to invent a trip to Amsterdam to show off blown away, do it. If you have to pretend you forgot a painter's name to use the name escapes me, do it. You are the director of this scene.
That's empowering, but also a little bit scary. It means you have to think on your feet.
It does, but it also takes the pressure off being right. You don't have to be right, you just have to be fluent. If you say you saw the Mona Lisa in London, the examiner doesn't care that it's actually in Paris. They care that you described it as a masterpiece.
That is a relief. I can stop worrying about my art history facts and start worrying about my collocation.
Exactly.
So let's quickly recap the main Band 9 nuggets we've mined from this source.
Sure.
First, don't just answer, define. Art is a broad term.
And use it to set up conditionals. If you mean X, yes. If you mean Y, no.
Second, the fluency rescue.
The name escapes me. Use it to fill silence and look smart while you think, and then recover with anyway.
Third, habits and travel.
You don't do it as a rule, but you make a point of it on holiday to get a flavor of the place.
And finally, narrative identity.
You might not class yourself as an enthusiast, but when you see masterpieces, you are blown away. And remember, telling a story forces your grammar into the past tense.
It sounds so manageable when you break it down like that. It's not about memorizing a dictionary. It's about having these little strategic phrases in your pocket.
That's it. It's a toolkit. You pull out the broad term tool when a question is vague. You pull out the name escapes me tool when you get stuck. You aren't just winging it.
I love it. Well, there you have it. A masterclass in masking simple ideas with complex language.
Indeed.
If you want to keep exploring these strategies, keep your ear to the ground for the next deep dive. We've got a mountain of source material left to get through.
Absolutely. The learning never stops.
And please, subscribe to the channel for more IELTS podcasts. It really helps us out and ensures you don't miss the next strategy session.
Good luck with your practice. Try to be blown away by something today.
I'll make a point of it. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Goodbye.